Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's FSI expert session. So today we're going to hear from a new partner who have embarked on a journey to create a new capability on the SAP stack, on the SAP portfolio, kind of embracing the best in suite approach. And the rationale behind this is as we see SAP's journey moving towards cloud and more quickly towards public cloud, we now see that financial institutions are looking to adopt more complex capabilities alongside this public cloud deployment option. So I first was introduced to Photon about 18 months ago, and at that point in time, so as you know, my focus is around the capital market space. At that point in time, I'd recently heard of another ERP provider being able to connect their ledger capabilities back to Murex, which is a trading platform. And that ultimately provided quite a complex and sophisticated capability that enabled firms to be able to have summary information in the general ledger, but then a close integration back to a complex capital markets focused subledger environment. Paul from Photon came to me and highlighted what they were doing in terms of their new financial hub, and the topic around public cloud and being able to deal with complex financial instruments such as we do in the capital market space was something that Photon was laser focused on. So over the last 18 months, we've been looking at working with Photon to help understand where their capabilities lie and where their interest around the SAP stack together. And what we'll hear today is a little bit of background from Photon in terms of why they started this program and this initiative. But I just wanted to quickly finish this off and say that as we look at the sort of future go-to-market for SAP, particularly in 2025 and beyond, and Christian stated quite heavily that public cloud is the future for SAP. Financial institutions are going to want the same level of capability in public cloud that they've often enjoyed on-premise or potentially in private cloud in the past. And I recently hosted a capital markets and an asset management advisory council in New York for a number of customers over there. And one of the requirements that came out of that session was that these organizations were looking for a capability, and they're looking for SAP to help support this. They're looking for a capability that brings their financial backbone closer to the front and middle office. And the Photon Financial Hub can become exactly that component. It can help link the front and middle office trading, portfolio management related transactional systems to the SAP financial backbone by providing a financial hub that runs on SAP BTP in the middle. So before I steal all of their thunder, I'd like to hand over to Adam and Paul, who are the founders of Photon, to explain what it's all about. Gents, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction, Stuart. And thank you all for your attendance, and to Jörg for setting this up. We'll certainly endeavour to give you a good introduction, and hopefully you'll come out of this with an understanding of how we can help you and your customers. So let's have a look at the agenda. We've done the introduction, but I think what we'd like to focus on now is giving you a bit of an education piece on what the Photon Financial Hub Cloud is, why we're on public cloud, and some of the functionality available. And certainly we'll be doing a demonstration so we can bring that to life a little bit for you. I'll then talk about some of the business drivers. I think it's important for you perhaps to hear some of the business drivers that we see in the market for the accounting hub and financial hub, so that when you hear your customers or see these types of activities at your customer sites, you know that there could be an opportunity to position this solution. We'll talk about some of the potential benefits for SAP customers, and frankly, what's in it for you from an SAP point of view, whether you're an account exec or one of the industry experts. It's important to understand what's in it for you, and perhaps how or who you could sell this financial hub to. Okay. So the Photon Financial Hub Cloud for SAP, what is it? So it is a public cloud-based subledger and accounting engine with P&L and financial analytics. This is something that Adam and I have founded and developed, and it's something which comes from 30 plus years of experience in the market. You know, we've worked for companies such as Aptitude, which was formerly known as Microgen, Legerity, and Wolters Kluwer. So we're bringing a lot of market experience and know-how into this product, and now bringing that to the benefit of the SAP architecture and customer base. It's built on SAP BTP, and it's tightly coupled with the S4 HANA General Ledger. It's designed for financial services, and that, you know, obviously there are some subsectors to that, whether that's banking, broking, hedge funds, asset management, or indeed payment and insurance. We've been working with SAP, as Stuart said, over the last 18 months. We are now live in the SAP store, which you can find that. And we'll perhaps share the link afterwards. And you know, we've leveraged the SAP industry cloud stack for this product. So your customers and your technology people, for that matter, will recognize the product set. It's DataSphere, it's SAC, it's SAP HANA Cloud, and Fiori. We're excited because we feel we're able to bring a best-of-breed public cloud financial services and capital market subledger to market for SAP users in all tiers of the market. And that, we feel, is quite a USP. Okay, I'm going to hand you over to Adam Hill, our CEO and co-founder.
Thank you, Paul. So before we go into what it is more exactly and the demonstration, we thought it fitting to emphasize the public cloud aspect of it. This software, that's Photon Financial Hub, has been designed from inception, from the start, to be cloud native. We are aligned with the SAP Grow program under business focus for 2025, we understand, and we are 100% focused on public cloud deployment on SAP BTP. Photon leverages the scalability, the security, and the TCO benefits of public cloud. Typically, public cloud applications have been standardized and commoditized to support multi-tenant and enforced regular software updates. This means that you cannot add software extensions, if you like, easily, because the software has to be updated automatically. And we have solved this challenge by offering configurable features which are embedded in the SAP HANA database and a more controlled and personalized upgrade management process. Paul, would you mind doing the next slide, please? Thank you. So what is it? The out-of-the-box functionality is a financial services hub, which includes multi-GAAP, multi-entity, multi-currency accounting engine and subledger. It performs configurable granular accounting at a transaction and product book level, not just at a consolidated level. It allows a drill down from summary to detailed balances to transactions, and provides P&L explained calculations and profitability analysis. It contains a fit-for-purpose financial services data model covering, and there's a list of typical capital markets instruments there: equities, bonds, FX, money market, various derivatives, commodities, and structured products. Its operation results in the creation of a rich data set containing the summary balances, the detailed balances, and the associated transactions, which drive valuable insights from SAP Analytics Cloud. Now, in the diagram, you can see a set of typical source systems chosen for their capital markets capability, and some static or reference data feeding into DataSphere, which standardizes these business events and sends them to the hub. The hub processes these, sending the summary balances to SAP's ledger, and both the Photon Financial Hub and the ledger send data to SAP Analytics Cloud, which will end up giving the user an unparalleled, shall we say, panorama of data covering the summary elements of their business right down to the detailed transactions. Could you change the slide, please, Paul? So now we're going to move to the demonstration. Okay, you can see that? Yes, good. So here we are, and we're positioned on what we call the CFO's dashboard. And before I go any further, really, it's important to say that, and as you know, SAP people, that all of the SAC is configurable, and this effectively is a set of templates that we give to the client, but it's highly configurable, so it could be added to, changed, and made completely functional for the particular client. This client is a smallish boutique capital markets outfit with offices in Australia and Singapore, London, and the US. It deals with certain types of specific trades with large counterparties. It also makes money off a trading fee. So at the left top, we have a donut with how much they've done for the various large counterparties. And in the middle, we have an analysis of the trading fees by portfolio and currency. And this typical heat map is green is good and red is bad. So London debt has made the most trading fees in GBP and so on. There are three main areas of operation: Australia and Singapore. We can see here London and the US derivatives. This gives a mini trial balance, if you like. And this particular little graph here, which is of Bitcoin versus USD, and is actual real data covering a year from this year's May to last year's May, shows that Bitcoin to BTC to USD went from 26.75 to about 67 or around that number. It's quite an interesting fact in itself. Anyway, they just happen to have an interest in that, but that shows the kind of specific configuration that you would apply to a client. So that's the CFO's dashboard. Now, if we come out of that, we see a number of colored tabs, which give access to the various parts, the visible parts of the system, because not all of it is made visible here. There are tabs for transactions to drill down into that, detailed balances and journals, and then various tabs for summary balances, reference data, accounting rules, and the system log. So that was the CFO's view that we saw at a high level, but the CFO and his staff, colleagues, various other people can drill down into any of this as they choose if they see the need to for investigatory or other purposes. So if we have a look at the transactions first, now this first display shows there aren't many transactions, obviously it's a demonstration in the system. This is all the two-legged transactions, and there's one four-legged to show we have the capability, an FX swap transaction here. There's the short transaction view with fees, various analyses of portfolio and fee, and transaction detail. Now, while we're on this page, you can see here that these figures have 8 numbers, 8 figures after the decimal point. The system underneath it has 18, so we're quite capable of handling any crypto that exists at the moment. This can be summarized to whatever level is appropriate for a presentation to the users. Now, if we go to the transaction detail, we can see all the transactions and all their data. So we have a number of them, and we can scroll across and we can see the various fields. Quite a lot of data can be stored in these. Not very, very specific, but data that the accountants might be interested in to give a picture of how the transactions relate to the specific accounting that's going on. And at the end, we have a lot of, in the light grey, we have a lot of calculated figures. Some of these fields you see here, you can see free text 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, free dates. These are fields which the customer can use. They can change the title specifically to what they want, and they can store in these textual fields or date fields or numerics extra pieces of data that they want to enlarge the system for their capability. Now we can also see fees by portfolio. So it's basically they charge these people a base trading fee, but there is scope in the system for various other fees that could be levied. So you can see the trading fee by the portfolio here. You can see the fees by product here, for instance. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not
Just
sure.
carry on.
I think it was just a bit of background noise.
Okay. We can see the transaction numbers, and this being a demonstration, they're fairly low, so we can see the numbers of transactions by product here, by instrument, and by currency up the side. And there's a similar view of trading fees by product and currency. And once again, you can see that the green being high, red being low. We can see that the repo and GBP are the most trading fees. Fine. So that's the view by transaction. For those who want to really drill down into the detail that exists inside Photon, that Photon exists to provide for the user and will not be in the general ledger, in the S4HANA ledger. Now, if they want to look at, if the customer wants to look at the detail balances, they do so in here. There's trades, a trade bar, a trade table, a trade donut, and various other ways of looking at the detail balances to see which is most profitable on a per trade basis. Whether you can see it by a heat map by portfolio and various other dimensions, limited only by the imagination of who's going to put these screens together. So you can look down into all the detail that you choose. And if you really want to know what happened to a particular transaction, you can look at the journals in here. So we can see the journals and their debit credit patterns here, all the journals that moved the balances. Okay, so there are ways for the accountants to look into anything to determine what might have happened in the event of some kind of possibly malfunction or other thing that they want to investigate. Now, there are various other ways to look at the summary balances. We could look at the summary balances by bar chart here, and here we see the summary balances, which of course are the same as the S4HANA ledger, but Australian, Singapore, London derivatives and US derivatives are there by portfolio. You can see the balances by entity, and there are 2 entities in this company. You could see it by counterparty, product, and any number of other dimensions that could be set up for the client. So the summary balances could also be seen in donut charts, if you want to view them that way. So we can see the life to date, the year to date, the month to date, and the daily by portfolio, entity, counterparty, and so on. Okay, so those are the balances. Now, you can also see all the other data that the system uses to do the calculations. Specifically, we can look at the accounting rules. So all the accounting rules belong to this group. You can have multiple groups, but they all belong in the demo to group main. Within group main, there are 3 accounting schemas. So there's an IFRS and a UK GAAP schema. If you want to look at the rules themselves, we can choose that. This shows the rules for a typical FX revaluation. And we can see 4 lines. And these little graphs here tell you what is going on. There's a debit, credit, credit, debit pattern to these. So there's a debit and credit for today, business day today, and a reversal next day. And that's a typical revaluation. And so you revalue every day. And you can see the debit and credit to today, that's business date plus 0, business date plus 1, and those are the accounts to which it debits and credits. And you can, by using these selectors, you can see the accounting for any other instrument or business event. Inside this screen, you can also see the GL accounts that have been set up. A lot of them have been set up purely for demonstration and currency testing, system testing purposes, and the business events that are used to drive the accounting. And all of these, by the way, can be set up by the user and are pretty much completely free to be set up as the user wants. User can also set up and look at reference data. So here we have all the portfolios that we saw before, from the Asians to the spot in the US. We can see currencies, we can see counterparties and internal parties here. We can see products here. Now, just while we're looking at this, let's scroll across to the end to see what can be the control fields, which are quite important. There's a number of control fields, this being a financial system. There's the active or inactive flag, how the record was inserted, its status, whether it was inserted or updated, last change date, the owner of it, and the source system. So the system has a pretty full, comprehensive idea of where all the data came from, a tenant and a valid from and a valid to. The global processing group is important in that allows you to do different processing groups around the global timescale. So this being reference data, it's called ref, but for actual data, there would be a group for New York, probably one for London or Europe, and another one for Tokyo and Far East. So that, and we can add various other types of reference data to this. There's a few others in here. Let's go back now. So that's all the reference data. We finally have a look at the system log. Now the system logs all the informational and error messages that it does in operation, bearing in mind that this system was run on an empty database for demonstration. There are a lot of caution/low messages here, and there is one real error here, and this is of course for demonstration purposes to illustrate the point. These errors are, as we have a look, they're all to do with some trades. This was ETFO source 15, source A15, has an invalid portfolio. Far East derivatives does not exist as a portfolio, and we could check that, but that is true. It doesn't exist. These, on the other hand, are because we ran the system up against an empty database. And there are a lot of it, but in simple terms, the system is saying, why are you running against an empty database? Now, that might seem sort of fairly trivial sort of a thing, but basically, if in the course of production, the system found that the database prior to today had been empty, that's a very serious situation. It means that somehow all the production data was lost. So it's quite right to raise a lot of messages over and over again. Where is the data, please? Is there something wrong here? Of course, it was wrong in this circumstance, but there's a sound backup, if you like. And that is the end of the demonstration, and I might pause here to allow for any questions to be asked. No? Okay, in that case, we will pass on. I'll stop sharing and we'll go back to Paul. So Paul has the next slide.
Thank you, Adam. So I'll just move on to touch on some of the business drivers. These are perhaps the situations you could look for in some of your customer accounts, or if it comes up in conversation, which might lead you to think that's something that the subledger or financial hub could help with. M&A is a good business driver. Acquisition tends to bring more source systems, potentially more ledgers and complexity. Having a subledger in place means that integration of new systems can be done in a controlled manner. You can effectively plumb new systems into an existing finance flow and do a sort of managed cutover of those new systems. And given the activity in the market, whether that's banking or insurance, I think M&A is almost guaranteed to be around in some of your clients. Geographical diversification. This is always an interesting topic. Having multiple jurisdictions for accounting and statutory reporting drives often manual effort and challenges for reconciling between international statements. Having a controlled central place for multi-GAAP accounting is key, and having that part of the subledger means that you can automatically generate multiple accounting treatments from a single business event, therefore ensuring reconciliation is achieved automatically and giving the customer an ability to, say, trace between their US GAAP numbers and their IFRS numbers. Product diversification. Often clients are looking to diversify, bring in new products or services, and this can be a real headache for the accounting team. Often they're not briefed quick enough so that they can change their finance systems to be able to account for these things. Having a subledger or accounting hub means that, for one, finance can be in control of their own destiny, and if they can change the accounting in one single place, then they can move more quickly through the development life cycle. Scale and growth in itself is a business driver potentially. We're seeing a lot of this in terms of banks and fintech scaling up, grabbing customer deposits, seeking more customers, growing the business. And if you find that there's a fat GL in place, i.e. there's too much detail in the general ledger, this is going to put even more strain on that product. A subledger allows for a streamlining of this summary data to be stored, or at least the summary data to be stored in the GL, and then to keep the details in the subledger. Cloud. This is still a journey for many people. I'm sure you're very much aware of the situation with ECC and other products outside of the SAP family, for that matter, having to move these customers from what could be complex on-premise customized implementations is not trivial, but having a flexible and configurable cloud-based subledger can significantly reduce the risk and complexity and make the move to a cloud-based finance stack possible. Regulation. This is always a topic. IFRS 17 was a struggle for many insurers, and there are many out there, I think, who have an IFRS 17 cleanup project, either in play now or in the future. IFRS 9 is still a challenge for banks, and I think generally the need for more regulation and traceability is evident. We were talking to one of the big four recently who were really talking about how the regulators are clamping down on traceability and being able to get at that detailed data in between the source systems and the general ledger is critical. Okay, so what are the benefits? What are the benefits to your customers in particular? We've talked about a move from legacy ECC, general ledger, or other general ledger platforms for that matter, and to support the move to the cloud-based S/4HANA platform, giving you the opportunity to move some of those complex on-premise processes into the subledger and keep that general ledger nice and clean and thin. Supporting financial control and product control in one box. Many capital markets divisions, if you're talking about a large player, or perhaps capital markets, small capital markets companies, have a wide range of products which are often not handled very well by their existing accounting processes. The ability for Photon Financial Hub to deal with those products natively, as well as some of the product control features like P&L Explain, is a real benefit to these clients. Having the Photon subledger in place really enables the CFO office to get value from their SAP ecosystem. Many customers have been searching for the ability to account at trade, book, product, or customer level. The subledger, the Photon Financial Hub, allows those customers to do that. And once they've got that data at that really granular level, there are real unparalleled insights into finance risk and P&L trends, which can be surfaced through that common front-end SAP Analytics Cloud. Data lineage, transparency, and audit trail. We keep coming back to that need for these things in the modern finance architecture. Regulation is driving this. Being able to explain to the regulators where data has come from is key, and the subledger will certainly support that. Finally, finance automation and a reduction in manual processes. There's always going to be a strain on resources, whether that's because of a reduction in skills available or cost. There's always that need to get more from less, and having automation through the Photon Financial Hub will certainly support that. This is Adam and myself. These are our contact details. We're ready here waiting to help and answer any of your questions. Thank you very much, and we'll open it up to questions from the floor.
So this is Jörg speaking. For our listeners, please unmute yourself and take the chance to raise your question to our experts.
So just maybe while people are coming off mute and thinking about the questions, Mariano's already got a question. I thought you might have one, Mariano. But just before you kick on that one, just a couple of extra points. So Adam and Paul are both based in the UK, right around London. So easy enough to get to anywhere or have conversations with any organisation, regardless of geography. We have had a couple of exploratory sales cycles with organisations at the moment. One in particular, which is worth worth noting is a crypto exchange in Hong Kong, right? So the other advantage of the Photon Financial Hub is it also supports non-traditional financial products like crypto as well in that respect. So we can go in multiple different directions. So yeah, it is a kind of a modern, forward-looking platform in that respect.